Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today, we are going to be counting down the top 10 championship players who I personally think are good enough to play in the Premier League. So quite an interesting video coming to you guys today, and I'm very interested to get your guys' opinions on the players who you think that are currently playing in the championship who are good enough to make the step up to the Premier League. So I decided to make this video as recently in the championship we have seen quite a few players being poached by Premier League teams. You know, we've seen the likes of James Maddison, Josh Murphy, Greg Cunningham all moved to the Premier League recently, and as well as that, Brighton, for some bizarre reason, signed Jason Steele from Sunderland the other day, and to me, that was just a really baffling signing. Watching Jason Steele in the Championship last season for Sunderland, I mean, he was dreadful, so I'm not sure what Brighton are thinking when they signed him. But the Championship, without doubt, has an abundance of talent in there, and a lot of players who I think are good enough to make the step up. So today, I'll be presenting you with the top 10 players who are playing in the Championship who I think deserve to make that step up. I've decided to not include players like, I don't know, someone like Shaqiri, who probably most likely will be moving back to the Premier League. I've decided not to include those type of players, and I've included players who probably will be playing in the Championship next season. Also as well, before we do get into the top 10 list, I must say a massive thank you to you guys. When I'm recording this video on Sunday, we have just hit 9,000 subscribers on the channel, so thank you so much for that. That really does mean a lot. When you guys will be watching this, I will actually be away on my holiday, but I'll still be responding to all the comments down below, and I think I'll have another video coming out on Saturday morning as well for you guys to look forward to. But enough of that, guys, let's go ahead and get into this top 10 list. So coming in at number 10 on the list, we have Liam Moore, currently playing for Reading. Now, for Liam Moore, there has actually already been quite a bit of Premier League interest in him. Funnily enough, he has already played in the Premier League. Back in 2014, he went ahead and played 11 games with Leicester. However, since then, at Reading, he's definitely gone on to mature into a very capable centre-back. When I was watching Reading last season, I mean, they were an absolute shambles at times, but Liam Moore was always that player who stood out to me, and I think that if given the chance, he is good enough to make that step up. Reading fans, what do you think? Let me know down below. Then in at number 9 on the list, we have Preston North End's Ben Pearson. Without doubt, in my opinion, the best defensive midfielder in the Championship. The way he's able to read the game in front of him and break up the play is absolutely ridiculous. He's very composed on the ball, which is a thing that you don't normally typically see with a lot of defensive midfielders, and as well as that, he's certainly not shy of putting his foot in, which is another thing that you don't always see too much of these days. You know, players like Ben Pearson now are quite few and far between, and the fact that he's still young, he's English as well, he's going to be going for a lot of money one day, Ben Pearson, and if he doesn't play in the Premier League, I would be absolutely astounded. Hopefully it is with Preston one day, but if Ben Pearson doesn't play in the Premier League, that would just be absolutely criminal. He's more than good enough now for it. The only thing that's holding Ben Pearson back is his temper. Over the last 2 seasons, he's gone ahead and accumulated around about 30 yellow cards, which I find it quite funny, but a Premier League club, that's obviously going to put them off. Some Premier League teams have been interested in Ben Pearson in the past. I think Everton at one point were said to be interested in him, but definitely a player to look out for in the future. Definitely good enough for the Premier League. Thinking again at number 8 on the list, we have Samu Saiz, currently playing for Leeds United. Probably their best player on his day, Samu Saiz. A very capable player in the Championship. His composure on the ball, matched up with his vision and technical ability, makes him one of the best playmakers in the Championship, of course. Towards the latter end of last season, we weren't really seeing the best of him, although we weren't really seeing the best of Leeds in general, really. You know, under Paul Heckingbottom, things just kept going bad for worse for Leeds, and he wasn't really able to shine in that system. But under Marcelo Bielsa, if Samu Saiz is utilised in the correct way, with a striker put in front of him, Leeds could be really deadly next season. And the type of player that Samu Saiz is, I think he is a very creative player who will be good enough for the Premier League. You know, we see players playing in the Premier League like Alex Pritchard. I see Saiz as quite a similar player to him. I think he'd more than be able to do a job in the Premier League for one of those teams. In at number 7 on the list, we then have Bartosz Białkowski, Ipswich Town's #1 goalkeeper, of course. At the moment, he is at the World Cup with Poland as their 3rd choice goalkeeper, and in my opinion, the amount of points Białkowski has been able to save Ipswich over the last few seasons has been absolutely staggering, and he is probably one of the most underrated goalkeepers in the Championship, you know, probably because he's not playing for like the most glamorous side in Ipswich. A lot of the time he does go overlooked. I think that recently Mick McCarthy McCarthy came out in an interview and said that he's even been surprised that there's not been any Premier League interest in him, because I think that a goalkeeper of his calibre is good enough to play in the Premier League. In at number 6 on the list, we then have Matej Vydra, currently playing for Derby County, of course. It's yet to be seen whether Vydra will be staying at Derby or not. You know, there's been quite a lot of speculation surrounding him at the moment as to whether he'll stay or go. Last season winning the Golden Boot in the Championship with 21 goals. The thing I like about Vydra is he's such a diverse forward, you know. He can play out wide, he can play as a number 10 or as a number 9. I think that flexibility he's able to show will really bode well in the Premier League. He has already played in the Premier League before. He's played for West Brom and Watford. However, since then, I'd argue that he's matured into such a more complete player, you know. Last season especially, I think he really went on to refine his game. His movement in and around the box is absolutely excellent when you go ahead and watch him. You know, the movement he makes off the ball is fantastic to watch. His composure in front of goal and final touch, I mean, he really sharpened up last season, and he showed that at Derby. So in my opinion, Vydra is the sort of player who is good enough for the Premier League, especially as well when you look at previous Golden Boot winners from the Championship. You know, the likes of Chris Wood definitely made the step up to the Premier League, Andre Gray as well. So Matej Vydra, I think he's good enough. In at number 5 on the list, we then have Joe Bryan, currently playing for Bristol City, of course, their left back, and is arguably one of the best, if not the best, fullbacks in the Championship, of course. A modern requirement of a fullback these days is to be solid defensively, but equally good at going forward, and Joe Bryan is definitely good at both. Last season, he went ahead and scored 7 goals in all competitions and got 3 assists. One of those goals, of course, coming against Manchester United, that absolute thunderbolt into the roof of the net, and Joe Bryan going forward is absolutely fantastic. I think he's a very tough player to go ahead and pick up when he is going forward and making those overlapping runs, and he's a very clever player who reads the game very well as well. And when you see some other fullbacks who are currently playing in the Premier League, Joe Bryan is definitely good enough to make the step up. We've already seen quite a few teams from the Premier League be interested in him, with the likes of Newcastle, Fulham and Everton all sniffing around him. So in my opinion, he's good enough to make the step up, and just a very good fullback in general. Then in at number 4 on the list, we have Middlesbrough's Ben Gibson, a player who not too long ago, quite a few people were saying he should be making it into the England squad. So definitely a very highly rated player, and the fact that he is young and English is always going to go ahead and bolster his price tag. Last season, of course, he was part of a Middlesbrough defence who only went ahead and conceded 45 goals and probably were defensively one of the best sides in the Championship. Definitely a player who's capable of making the step up to the Premier League, in my opinion. He's already gone ahead and played there, but that last season in the Championship really went to show that, in my opinion, he's too good for the Championship, really. And at number 3 on the list, we have Stoke City's Joe Allen, and the reason I'm going to include Joe Allen on this list is because next season he will be playing in the Championship. Recently, he has just signed a new 4-year contract extension with Stoke City, and for me, that is absolutely massive for them, because I'm not going to lie, he was one of those players who I thought there's no way he's going to step down to the Championship. There's going to be an abundance of Premier League clubs who will come in for Joe Allen, because in my opinion, he's more than good enough to still play in the Premier League. Already in the Premier League, he's played for the likes of Swansea, Stoke and Liverpool as well, and he was made into a bit of a meme, you know, by Brendan Rodgers when he went ahead and called him the Welsh Xavi, you know. At Liverpool, he didn't really live up to those expectations, but when you actually take him seriously and we watch him, you know, in his past few seasons for Stoke in the Premier League, he's a fantastic player who reads the game and dictates the tempo of the game very well. And when we look at the previous squads of the teams who have won the Championships in the last few years, you know, Newcastle and Wolves, they've each had a holding midfielder who's been able to do that, you know. Newcastle had John Joe Shelvey and Wolves had Ruben Neves. I think that Joe Allen is good enough to be that player for Stoke City if they are to go on and win the league, which they are being tipped for at the moment. So in my opinion, Joe Allen is still good enough to play in the Premier League, but I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next season. Coming in at number 2 on the list, we then have Jack Grealish. Now, there was one point where we were talking about a £40 million price tag for Jack Grealish, and that all got a little bit out of hand, of course. It's yet to be seen whether he will actually stay at Aston Villa come the end of this transfer window or not, but quite a lot is talked about of Jack Grealish, whether he is good enough or not to make the step up to the Premier League. In my opinion, his stats don't really do him justice. When you actually watch Aston Villa play, he is the absolute heartbeat of that team going forward. He's the creative drive going forward who starts most moves for them. I mean, you can tell that he's got a footballing brain, you know. The movements that he's able to make off the ball and his technical ability with the ball is absolutely excellent. One thing that must be said is he needs to brush up on his finishing, but I'd say that at this point in time, he is good enough to make that step up into the Premier League. You know, the second half of last season, he was on fire. But coming in at number 1 on the list, it is, of course, going to be Adama Traore, currently playing for Middlesbrough. And when I'm actually recording this video, there is said to be interest from PSG in the Middlesbrough winger. I mean, he has all the physical attributes to be a top player. His strength, power and speed on the ball, it just goes absolutely unrivaled in the Championship. And to see a player of his quality step up to the Premier League, I think it's time. Last season in the Championship, he went ahead and scored 5 goals and got 10 assists. But similar to Jack Grealish, really, I don't think that stats do a player like Adama Traore any favours, really, you know. When you actually watch him play, you can tell there's something special about him. I think in Middlesbrough's last 10 games of the season, Adama Traore was the man of the match in 7 of those games. So he was an absolutely pivotal part of that team which did make the playoffs in the end. Of course, they weren't able to beat Aston Villa, but a player who's definitely capable of making that step up to the Premier League, and I'm sure Middlesbrough fans absolutely love the guy. He's a brilliant player to watch. But guys, that will now wrap it up for this video, so let me know down below in the comments whether or not you do agree with my list or not. Also, let me know in the comments down below, who do you think is the best player currently playing for your football club, and do you think they are good enough to make the step up into the Premier League? Also, let me know down below, who do you think is the best youngsters currently coming through at your team, and do you think that they're good enough to make the step up into the Premier League? But like I said, guys, that will now wrap it up for this video, so if you have enjoyed, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you do subscribe for some regular Championship content. Like I said at the start of the video, guys, thank you so much for 9,000 subscribers, and yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.